Well, when I found out that I had won the Klaus Research Prize, of course, I was stunned. I was thrilled. I was speechless, and I'm not a person who is very often speechless. So it's just such an honor and a humbling experience, and one that I understand the serious responsibility to use the prize in ways that are really going to help make the world a better place for young people. In recent years, my colleagues and I have been studying adolescent brain development along with their behavior as a way to try to better understand what changes during adolescence, how young people are different from adults, and of course, ultimately, how we can use this knowledge to affect social policy and practice. And what we and other scientists have been finding is that there is extensive and very dramatic brain maturation during adolescence, much more than I think anybody had imagined previously. And so we know, for example, that parts of the brain, systems of the brain that are very important for things like judgment and decision-making and impulse control are undergoing steady maturation during the adolescent years, in fact, into the mid-20s and maybe even beyond. And that means behaviorally that as individuals move through this stage of life, that they become better at thinking ahead, at resisting peer pressure, at controlling their impulses, at considering the future consequences of their actions and decisions, not just the immediate consequences. So that's one very important aspect of brain development. A second that I'm especially interested in is that around the time of puberty, when the pubertal hormones are increasing dramatically, there are really important changes in systems of the brain that are important for our sensation of reward or pleasure. And there's a neurotransmitter called dopamine, which is a very important brain chemical for our experience of reward or pleasure. And scientists have found that there's more dopamine activity in the prefrontal area of the brain during early adolescence and middle adolescence than at any other point in life. What does this mean? It means that adolescents are going to be much more attuned to reward, to seeking reward, to seeking sensation, to seeking thrills, to seeking pleasures. And this is important because it helps us understand why adolescence is a time when individuals take more risks and behave more recklessly, why they often start experimenting with drugs and alcohol, why they might engage in delinquent behavior, because it's exciting and because they're only thinking about the immediate rewards and they're not thinking about the long-term consequences. And so in some of our work, we have said that the accelerator is on the floor, but the braking system is not in place yet. And that braking system is not going to be in place in an adult way until much, much later. In our work, we try to use it to inform policy and legislation. And there are a couple of ways in which this work, I think, have been important and I hope will continue to be important. One is in the area of juvenile crime. I mean, I said before that most adolescent crimes occur in groups. Adult crime tends to be done by people working by themselves. Now, what that means is that when adolescents are in a group situation, they may be especially emotionally aroused in ways that make their judgment much worse. And so when the court is looking at a young person who's committed a crime, it should be asking if this happened in a group, because if it happened in a group, maybe the person should not be held as responsible as if the person did it by himself. Now, this turns out to be important because in the United States, there are some laws that make the penalties for committing a crime in a group, in a gang, much more harsh than the same crime committed by itself. We think that this may not be a good idea because, in fact, the group situation is the very situation that brings out the worst in adolescence. It is the situation that might make them more immature in their behavior. So that's one way we've tried to influence the law. A second has to do with laws about driving. So up until fairly recently, you could get a driver's license in the United States, usually around the age of 16, and you would be handed your license and you could drive. And there would be no restrictions on when you could drive or how you could drive or where you could drive. Well, because of research, many states are now saying, well, maybe for the first 6 months or first year that you have your license, you should not be driving with other adolescents in the car, because research shows that the presence of peers may make adolescents take more chances. And so this is another way in which the science of adolescent development, including some of the work that we do, can influence policy and legislation. I think one of the most important things that's going to come of the Klaus Jacobs Research Prize is really not how it influences my work, but how it influences the field. Because the study of adolescent development has not, I think, had the status of chemistry or biology or physics. But now here we have a major foundation, a very powerful and important foundation, not only making this award so that one person can do his work, but making a statement about what's important. And this is a statement that I hope other scientists will pay attention to, other foundations will pay attention to, governments will pay attention to. And the statement is that we can use science to facilitate productive youth development. And we ought to be investing in good science with this as the goal. And so I'm hoping that the attention given here, is not to me. It is to the Klaus Jacobs Prize, because that, it seems to me, is what's important. To motivate, to set an example, to show the world that we need to invest this kind of resource to do quality, rigorous science to promote youth development.